WCED, the World Commission on Environment and Development, once said, "Humanity has the ability to make development sustainable, to ensure that it meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs." We can date the relationship between food and sustainability all the way back to the 1980s, the time when sustainable development became an objective for all countries. After 20 years of conference and debates on how to manage Earth resources, WCED was able to establish a concept of sustainable development and the two dominant approaches that came with it. The Mosaic approach divides the sustainable development into three components: economy, society, and environment. Environment sustainability needs the development to be compatible with the maintenance of environment processes. Economic sustainability causes economically feasible development to say that the purpose of production and consumption is to enhance quality of life. Social sustainability states that the development should cover global equity needs, meaning all countries have equal access to resources available on Earth and hold equal responsibility for the management of them. The wealth approach is to appreciate the value of natural resources, man-made capital, and the equal inheritance of capital stocks over generations. We define weak sustainability as maintaining pure man-made and natural capital. Applying this to the Mosaic approach promotes substitution of natural capital with man-made capital and trade-offs among social, environmental, and economic objectives. The strong sustainability is that there is no decline in neither natural nor man-made capital over time. Weak sustainability operational qualities are challenged because, ecologically, it fails to see that the natural capital is often the prerequisite for man-made capital, and also because it requires that the natural resources level is held at a constant level, which is nearly impossible to achieve.
One of the main economic issues affecting food sustainability is climate change. Changes in weather could drastically affect food sustainability. Several extreme events from climate change include alterations in rainfall, shrinking ice sheets, and ocean acidification. Global rise in temperature also affects plants, causing an overall decrease in productivity. According to the Climate Change, Agriculture and Food Security in 2011, the overall impact of climate change on grains is negative, with a potential yield loss of 5% per each degree Celsius of global warming. The issue of food sustainability is also a result of biased public policies and investments toward poor farmers and consumers, women, and less favored areas. This includes areas with inadequate infrastructure, poorly integrated markets, and lack of access to technical assistance. The possession of assets such as land and livestock plays a huge role in defining whether or not individuals will be poor and food insecure. It is found that individuals living in rural areas tend to be poor when they do not own land and solely rely on wage income. However, when less fortunate individuals do own land, it is generally of poor quality.
When considering food sustainability, one must look at the societal aspects of the issue. A major part of food sustainability is food security. It is important to look at food security from a social standpoint. As a society, we tend to view food and agriculture as a business. Those who can afford it have food in abundance, but those who cannot suffer from undernourishment. we must remember to consider food not as a commercial product, but as a right to all humans, as it is essential for life. This calls for an economic change, another aspect to consider. However, this is not an easy task, since there are so many actors involved with food sustainability. Multiple companies, organizations, countries, and individuals influence decisions that are made, each of which have their own capital. In order to overcome this, one more important piece should be addressed: the political aspect. Good policy must be written which can satisfy all parties involved with the process. And with any policy, there must be a way for it to be well regulated. Thus, while a technical solution to food sustainability is needed, in order to find this solution, social, economic, and political aspects of the issue must be considered.
We all know it could be bad, but just how bad exactly? For one thing, food demand will begin to outpace food production. More food cannot be produced without an equal increase in water, fertilizer, cultivable soil, and available land area. More land requires more fertilizer and water, but the right types of fertilizers must be used in rotation or the soil can lose its fertility. These types of challenges become magnified when food is mass-produced. Additionally, if the amount of food being produced increases, it must be made certain that countries have the necessary infrastructure to support its transport. Heavily used dirt roads and back roads must be upgraded so that shipments can go freely between the farm, supplier, and store. When building the infrastructure, future growth must also be kept in mind. Narrow roads, weak bridges, and other faults would make it significantly more difficult to move food shipments from underdeveloped rural areas. Modern agriculture is heavily invested in by private companies such as Monsanto. Their seeds and crops are their product, and breeding or growing them will result in heavy and unwanted litigation, something that has long deterred progress. A small number of these companies controlling a large portion of food production in the world is dangerous when trying to diversify. A fourth consequence is the shift from communities to commodities. This is referencing the fact that farming used to be done for the sake of growing necessary food to support our population, but now it has become a leviathan but necessary business. Additionally, modern methods of farming are rapidly evolving to use more industrialized equipment and techniques centered around mass production of food. Finally, there are a couple of environmental concerns. By 2050, the Earth is expected to have well over 9 billion people. If unsustainable farming practices and food production are still occurring worldwide by that time, many environmental factors will be affected. Overfishing, overfarming, and overgrazing, in an attempt to keep up, could potentially ruin farmland and fish populations. Additionally, a dwindling freshwater supply will become an immediate concern as we try to decide whether farmland, livestock, or humans get priority with fresh drinking water.
Most of our farming today is run by huge factories and industrializations rather than small, sustainable farms. These factory farms may produce tons of food, but they use pesticides to keep pests and diseases away from the crops, keep a large group of animals in a small area, deplete the soil of its nutrients, and they affect human health. We need to create more space and better living conditions for these animals. If we minimize the usage of factory farming and turn to small, sustainable farms, humans are at less risk. To fix food security, we should improve agriculture diversity, make better food policies, and make use of sustainable agriculture like genetically modified crops. Genetically modified crops make large amounts of food for people, which will help our sustainability crisis. Another scientist that's worked on food sustainability and security was Simon Maxwell. Maxwell stated that the obvious conclusion is to strengthen policy in all countries. There will be country-specific choices to make about priorities and sequencing. There is also scope for collaboration. He believes that these policies will make sure that all countries will eventually become sustainable.